Here we go. What is up, everyone?
Good. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
2023. 2023. And welcome to the Everyday Riches Show. I'm Barbara Ellison. I'm a transformational life trainer, and I'm on a mission to make happiness the norm rather than the exception. Because you know what? I truly believe that each and every one of us deserves to lead a happy, healthy, financially free, abundant life.
Yeah.
And that's what this show is kind of all about, is finding the everyday riches in the everyday. So that's me. And I'm just happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. I'm Jason Tracy. And you know what? I love empowering people to dominate their industry, to dominate their businesses while serving. And it's so possible. And I worked with a team yesterday that didn't afraid of selling or thinking that selling is a certain way, and being able to just open their eyes to how they're actually able to serve their customers at a higher level. It was super awesome to empower them and show them they can truly dominate through service. So I'm out on that mission and find the everyday riches, of course.
Yeah. And we have got a great guest and my fellow co-host from another podcast, which is what we're going to be talking about today, of starting a YouTube channel. This is my good friend and buddy, Carol Henderson. Hi, Carol. How you doing today?
Hi. Oh, I'm doing great. And I do want to say Happy New Year to everyone. And I have Life by Design, and I help people to design their life to have the future that they want to have. And there's so many components to that. And especially if you're moving into the second half of your life, because I want the second half to be better than the first half. So that's basically what I do.
Yeah.
Super awesome. And welcome back. It's that you're guest on a few weeks ago or a month ago. Time has flown by, but it's awesome to have you back on.
Well, thanks for having me, Barbara and I.
Oh, and you were on last week. You guys were on last week too.
That's right. I was
Everybody
Jason
knows you,
last
Carol.
week.
Everybody knows you, Carol.
I identified as Jason.
I identify as Jason.
Last week she did a good job.
My voice is a little higher. I haven't brought that deep voice down yet.
Yeah. And the Texas accent will give you away every time.
What can I say? I used to travel internationally a lot. They'd always come and go, talk for us.
I love it.
So, but yeah, it thank y'all for letting me fill in for Jason. Thanks for having me back. Barbara, thanks for co-hosting all these shows and that we've been working so hard. But I want to bring up something real quick. I don't know, you talked about customer service, and I don't know if any of you have read the letter from the Southwest Airlines employee. It's an extremely well-written letter, and I had posted it somewhere, and somebody said, but the letter's so good and so well-written, why did he keep misspelling love? And there were 3 or 4 comments under it, and I'm going, and they're all going, well, I don't know, it may be slang or maybe, and I went back and I said, that's part of their logo. That's part of their saying, but not living down here. I mean, these people were in Florida or New York, and Southwest typically doesn't go there, but they had an amazing man that started Southwest. And it took off, and their customer service was second to none. Everyone in the hierarchy had worked on the line, I think is what they called it, but out with the public. They were engaged in the public. And then a man that was a number cruncher moved in, and he replaced people with number crunchers. And so they were all going for the bottom line and keeping the investors happy. And I think it was 10 years that he was in place. And this man that's there now has had 1 year to try to recoup all the damage done of letting the customer service fall away. And I never was a big Southwest flyer because I would go east when I was doing my almost weekly flying. I rarely went west. If I did, I do Southwest. But they at that point the ride amendment was in place for Love Field, and so that that didn't allow them to fly except to the neighboring states because it originally had been a regional airport. But anyway, so this man's trying to recoup it. But my husband, when we lived in Dallas, used to fly out weekly. And, basically I flew him wherever's the cheapest, DFW or Love, which would be American or Southwest typically. And Mr. Kelleher, is it Stephen? I don't remember his first name, but Mr. Kelleher, he said oftentimes he would be outside the airplane in the thing, shaking people's hands, saying, "Thank you for flying with us." That
Right.
More than once that happened on Keith's flights. So think how often he did it across the board at the different different terminal or different gates. And that's the type man he was, and that's the type hierarchy he had in place, was taking care of the people. So I just hope and pray that people give Southwest a little grace during this time.
Transition time. Yeah.
Yes. The new guy is much more like Mr. Kelleher, but he's only had a year to recoup that feeling of customers first. So, and that's what's been lost.
Well, and the thing is
board.
like you can't just go, like, it's hard. It's a hard wave to turn. You can't just plug in
Right.
day one and all of a sudden it's customer first, because to be honest with you, you show me a company that puts the customer first. You show me a company that has great customer service. I'll show you a company that takes care of their people. If you
Exactly.
don't take care of your people, if your people aren't inside the building, aren't happy, it doesn't matter what kind of rules and regulations and things you have in place to treat the customer well. It doesn't matter if that CEO goes to every terminal and shakes people's hands. Your people, that flight's going to be miserable because you have miserable people.
Right.
So, and that's what's really cool. Like the client I was talking about, like when their root is around the people, taking care of their people, and their
Mhm.
people feel it, and so they're out
Yes.
happy to take care of their customers.
Yes. And I don't know if you've ever flown Southwest, but back in the day, they would be singing and happy and, everybody top down was happy. You could feel it walking into the airport because that was only the airline that flew out of Love Field. American later came in just in very late years, but you could just feel the happiness and just the joy and contentment in all the way through the ranks. But that's true. Remember back when we were all kids, I don't know if you remember it, Jason, but anyway, the saying was, "Cut the customer's always right."
Right.
Now, I don't really believe that they're always right, but you can let them think they are.
Well, the thing is like, I've had heated people in my face being in retail for so many years, and I was called upon to be the person to fix it. Like, I was the fixer, right? If there was a customer that was heated in the store, they brought me out as the gun to like calm it down. And it's just really listening to that person, validating that they have, that there's a concern going on. Like, you may not understand completely what they're going through, but could you imagine, if they have what's going on in their day? You have no idea what's going on in their day. And I had so many people, as I would listen to them, validate that there was a concern, and then say, it's not about you're right and let me go get you what you want, because people are emotionally rational. Let me put this in a better place. Let's come up with a solution. And so if I listen to them, validate their concern, and then go to work to find a solution for them, by the end they're apologizing to me most times. And then I find out, oh, I just put my mom in the nursing home.
Exactly.
This was that thing that just tipped me off. I took it out on you, and I'm sorry. And like, it was always cool. It was like always the nut to crack that the biggest reward at the end was the apology. But then those people became my best clients.
Exactly.
Those people would follow me wherever I went because I handled them in their worst times. And if I can talk them down from that, what am I like on a good day?
Yeah. Well, and that's called kindness.
Right.
That's loving your neighbor as yourself. How would you want to be treated? And sometimes it is the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, this is it. I can't take any more if I don't If I don't say something, I'm going to drown.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard because in the service industry we're you look and say, well, me too, I'm going through a hard day too. I might have put my mom in a nursing home, but the
Mhm.
thing is when you go to work, you have to put yourself. I'm here and I'm here for other people in service of other people. I can go and have my pity party and handle my stuff at the end of the
Mhm.
day. My problems are going to meet me at the end of the day. And I used to tell my people, this is the best place. You can come here and get away from your problems. Like they
Right.
can't follow you in here. Let them go, stay at the door, and then this is a different world. These are we're serving people. We get to focus on helping other people, and then how do you feel at the end of the day?
Well,
Right.
and so often nowadays people don't have the capacity to compartmentalize their thoughts and feelings. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
I had a modeling agency for many years, and I had an event planned, a scout coming in to scout for me, and we had, I think it was 3 sessions planned that day. uh, Over 200-300 people going to be in my office over the course of the day with their children and auditioning and such. And my mom died.
Mm.
And so literally, my office had 2 windows that could overlook the runway training room. And so I always kept the windows open. And that day I had closed them because the funeral home people are meeting with me in my office while that's going on. And even my assistant, the girl that people thought was my partner, she goes, I didn't realize that that's who they were. She knew what was going on. She was actually staying with us at that time and stuff. And she said, I didn't realize. But that's something that you go on. There's not much you can do. And people are going, oh, is she going to cancel it? And my secretary goes, cancel? What are you
Mhm.
talking about? I had paid the money to fly the scout in. I had the hotel. Everything was already done. All the people were invited. All the advertising placed and running. There was, the show must go on.
Right.
Duh.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah, you
That's
have to learn how to put it down.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and that's how Jason and I started doing this show.
Oh, yeah. I
week,
remember
that week that I called and said, my former co-host Pat was tragically killed in a car accident, and it was like, and the thing is, our first instinct is to cancel, and
Yeah.
then it was like, no, you are not.
Right.
You're going to go on, and now we're going to be all
Well, it's so key
going
because
into
there was
3 years.
also a little bit of time to like go through your emotions, right? And you had
Yeah.
time to kind of think about it. And I don't know if either of you saw what happened last night in the football game. It was one of the I've never seen anything happen like this on TV in a sport. A young man made a tackle and he got up from the tackle and then just immediately collapsed and went into cardiac arrest. And they had to bring an ambulance out on the field, and as they were putting him up into the ambulance, they had to bring him back down, and they had to service CPR and put him and defib him for 9 straight minutes on the field. And it was an unbelievable scene because it went to commercial break, and then they came back from the commercial break, and I've never seen players, like, I'm getting emotional thinking about it right now. I've never seen players so shook. They were standing around their teammate and watching all this happen, and you just saw tears and just disbelief and people dropping to their knees and praying. And like, it wasn't just like holding hands and praying, it was people losing themselves,
Yeah.
Right.
and the show could not go on because
Yes.
every single one of those people were concerned about their teammate and their brother and
Right.
the person that's in the locker room with them came to them
Yeah.
to the game and may not live, and he's in critical condition now at the hospital. And what I've heard is that he can't breathe on his own, or that's the last update I've heard.
Wow.
But they
So
ended up having to cancel.
what game was this?
It was Monday Night Football. It was the Bengals and the Buffalo Bills.
Okay.
Wow.
I saw just a little clip, something had happened, but I didn't know what it was. So yeah. But
Yeah.
that's happening all over the world right now, mainly with soccer players. And I
Mm.
had asked someone, and it's just been over the last 2 years this has started happening. But I asked them, I said, why is it soccer? And they explained to me it's because it's constant movement,
Oh yeah, yeah,
as opposed
yeah.
to football where you do a play and then you rest, and you do a play and then you rest, or even basketball isn't as
Mhm.
constant as the soccer. So,
Yeah, yeah, it's so interesting. And who knows? I don't know if it was the way he hit. There's a certain condition where if you hit, there's what's it called? There's a player in 1972 in the NFL that died from this. It hit him took him into cardiac arrest. And the way
Wow.
this tackle went down, it was kind of vicious. He was the one that made the tackle, but he looked like he took the brunt of the hit. And
Oh,
and then he got up with that adrenaline and then just dropped like immediate, just dropped to the ground with
Yeah.
lifeless. So yeah, but that's a moment where they were all concerned about their teammates. The show couldn't go on.
right.
They
Yeah.
had to take a break.
Right. Well, and
Exactly.
it was right there on the field. They couldn't even remove him from the field.
Yeah,
You
and they
know,
finally did, but
Yeah, but it wasn't like they whisked him off and nobody really knew what was happening.
it was a
That
really
happens
unreal
in
scene.
so many games.
Yeah, it was a really unreal scene because they tried to bring the players back out on the field. They gave them 5 minutes after the ambulance and everything left. They
Mhm.
said, okay, we're going to start the game back in 5 minutes. And the Buffalo Bills guys, you could just see there is no way those guys were going to get back on the field and play the game. And one of the players was trying to give him a pep talk, like, let's go out there and play for him. And you just saw they tried to get motivated, and then they were right back again. But even the opposing team, you could see it in their eyes. Nobody was ready to play a football game.
Well, and they all know each other. You
Yeah,
don't
that's
think
exactly
that.
it.
You think that they're like this, but they're really it's like a family.
They're humans. They're people.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it surprised me. My husband played high school and then a little bit of college football, and they knew each other. We run into people now, and he's going, "Oh, I played against you," and he's become friends with some of the people he played against. But they, of course, it was small towns in Texas, but it was Texas football, so and they knew each other,
yeah.
and so
That's-
so it's not just an isolated thing.
And I think so many of them were probably feeling that this could have been me.
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
This could have been me.
So how many of them will pull their tackles and soften their play
Yeah.
because of this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it's crazy. It was just coincidental. We were kind of talking about that, and then what happened last night. I kept on thinking about that. So
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. It just shows you that life can change in an instant.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
I mean, this might
Absolutely.
change the face of football.
It could.
Maybe.
It could.
You
Of
know?
course, like it is happening so often all the way around the world
Right.
with the sports, and it's happening a lot, and we just don't hear it. We just don't hear it here. Unless we see one. I've seen some of the reels where they put together person after person after, it's like a 10, 15 minutes of people just dropping dead on the field or,
Wow.
dropping and then shortly after. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they did. I remember one time I saw it was one of those info kind of things about how many, especially football players, have concussion damage
Mhm.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they're living, that they don't realize when they're in their young, but then after their playing years,
Mhm.
then it is showing up. And I mean, some of the big players that it was coming out as PTSD and
Yeah.
that
Well, and
Because of-
traumatic brain injury.
traumatic brain injury.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Well,
yeah,
Keith's
just
senior
a-
year, he had 5 concussions.
Wow.
And back then it was like, look in their eyes and the coach say, okay, you're okay. You're okay.
Yeah.
Get back out there.
Get back out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had
there were
one
2 in one
concussion in
game.
my life. It was awful. And I felt the effects of that for almost a year
Yeah.
of the concussion. So
Yeah.
I don't know
But
how
back
these
then,
players
people
do it.
don't- Yeah, back
No.
then people didn't realize. We have a friend, it's a mentor of mine, and I got a letter. his wife, they were in a wreck in the 60s and she hit her head. Well, they went and took care of the kids. There were a broken bone here and bumps and bruises, and 3 kids in the car. And anyway, and now she's struggling just in the last year. And they've linked it back to that wreck in the 60s. But nobody knew. Nobody knew what about it or what to do about it. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
So, wow. But our heart goes out to him and his family.
Yeah.
Yes.
And and the team and the team members, because this is going to be huge, that they're going to be that remembering it. And but it just shows you that life is so unpredictable.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
So you
But
want
then
to
again,
live
it's
every day out loud.
Let's
life
live
out loud.
every day out loud. So yeah.
With that being said, living life out loud with YouTube, I'm really interested with what you 2 ladies have learned over this last week and a half, 2 weeks.
The moments of panic.
Yeah, don't panic.
Oh, panic.
Make far distant deadlines with small baby steps all along the way instead of waiting.
Yeah. And give yourself some grace.
Amen.
There
and
was
give
a
your
couple
business partner some grace. I actually got grumpy with Barbara the other night.
and we got grumpy with each other, and then it was like, okay, let's regroup.
I'm doing part of it, she's doing part of it, and I need her part to be able to finish my part. But
and I need her parts to do some of the things that I'm doing. And it was like,
oh my God, that's funny.
And we've had our Facebook for over a year. And so we're, they say start your podcast with what is it, Barbara?
About 20. You should have 20 episodes up.
Yeah.
10
well,
to 20.
we had 70 and now we have another 50 something. So we're looking at, 140 already in the can to go up. And that's my side of the thing. Her side's to make it look pretty.
Yeah. And which was fun, but we have to tell you our moment of panic. Absolute panic. The 2 of us looked at each other. What have we done? Because it was kind of a little bit of the blind leading the blind. But it was a fun project. But we got one of the things that had happened was our original Mavens of Motivation was on its own email. One of the things that you and I ran into a little bit.
Yeah.
It was on its own email. Somehow, only 3 of the shows went up under that email. The rest of them went up onto Carol's personal Life by Design email.
Oh, no.
So we were like, oh, brother, and hadn't noticed it. Didn't notice it. Why would we have noticed it? Anyways, so check to make sure that you're on the right Zoom or the right email address to make sure. This is now a rule. If you want to start a podcast or a YouTube channel, make sure you check the email address every time. Because YouTube is great. Every one of your email addresses can have a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So we did not notice it.
So when people went up, it had 2 different ones.
And it was showing the one that we didn't want, that we had no subscribers on. So Carol and I, we had the brilliant idea that, well, let's hide that YouTube channel. So then everybody will come to this one because it had the same name.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? When we hid the other channel, we lost all of our SEO stuff. So when we went to look for Mavens of Motivation, there was nothing there on YouTube. Absolutely nothing there on YouTube. We looked at each other.
Oh no.
Panic City. What have we done? Panic. And we were like, I said, well, Carol, I have got to go to the bank and go to the.
She
I've got to-
deserted me.
I deserted her. I've got a couple of errands to do. I have to go now. So
Yeah.
and then of course, because I'm in panic mode, well, I'm an emotional eater. So I said, well, in between the errands, I'm going to stop at Dairy Queen and have ice cream and cheese curds. So I am sitting there at Dairy Queen, just sitting there panicking. And I'm like, what are we going to do? We've lost all of our. And then it hit me. Oh, for heaven's sakes, Barbara, you know how to do basic SEO.
Yeah.
By the time I got home, it was like, okay, Carol, this is what we have to do. We have to make sure that our name is in the title of every video, that our name is in every description, and we have to have our keywords in a description at the top so that people can find us. And she was like, okay. Well, poor Carol had to go back and do every video.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Every video had to put in our name, Mavens of Motivation, in the title and in the first line of the description.
At that
And
point,
then-
it was 70 videos.
And there were 70 videos. So she was a trooper, and absolute trooper. Anyways, well, of course, once we got all of that done, now you put in Mavens of Motivation and it just pops up, and there we are. Top.
In fact, I want to encourage everybody, go to YouTube or
Go to
Google
YouTube
and type in Mavens of Motivation right now and subscribe
and
and
subscribe.
share to your friends.
Yeah. And if you want to
We
be a
worked hard
guest,
for this.
but then it became funny. And so by this time now we're getting punchy because we worked from 7 a.m. till midnight. And this was on the second day. So there we were. And then afterwards we went, oh, brother. So now we're still tweaking. So, we thought, oh, brother, let's tell people about the joys of doing a podcast and doing a YouTube channel. So then, of course, spillover. Carol and I were talking about this podcast, Everyday Riches.
Yeah.
And looking at the YouTube channel. And guess what? We need to do the same thing.
Well, and the other thing is that we're going to put another playlist on our channel that is interview the interviewers. And so we're going to snag, like when you interviewed me for this show, and put it up there as interview the interviewers. And so we're reaching out to all of our people that
have podcasts
been on their shows and gathering that footage, which is not an easy task necessarily, and gathering their footage. Because one of our friends that's interviewed both of us is in England, and just they're all over. And so thank God for digital.
Is it just all about tagging though? Like, do you just tag them and then that video will pop up in their YouTube feed?
That's what we're learning. That's a good question. That's a good question.
The thing about it, if we don't grab the footage and put it in our own channel, if they ever delete it, we have one person go, I don't know where it is, and Barbara's is on a particular channel that is no longer being used by that person. And so we had to really hunt to find the footage.
Yeah, and then we were able to find it. We did
find it, but we had to hunt to find it. And so there's your issue. I would say if you're on another podcast, grab the footage right away. And if possible, get it on your computer, your server to have just because of that issue. Because, if somebody else has it on their channel and you're just tagging it over to yours.
Yeah.
If they close their channel,
you are without that video.
You don't have an SEO, you have an SOL.
That's hilarious.
Oops.
That is hilarious. It was that on the fly.
That,
So-
yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Barbara never knows what's going to come out of my mouth.
But it was a fun experience. I mean, it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
We're still working. And now we're getting feedback and so just little things that we can do that, and if we had known them going in,
Yeah.
maybe it would have made a
Yeah.
little bit of a difference. However, so it's a little bit more work, but it has been a fun process. It's been a fun process, and just people were getting some great feedback. And then of course you go back and you criticize yourself. It's like, oh brother, I can't believe I looked like that on a podcast. And oh, I can't believe my audio was so bad. And oh yeah, the video didn't work really well. So won't
Oh,
it
I
be
gained
nice?
weight.
And whatever. And so, and one of the things that we were talking about is that, isn't it going to be nice? Like, I mean, and we brought your name showed up here.
Yeah.
I said, wouldn't it be nice if we had, like Jason does, a studio,
Oh my God.
somebody to do all the editing?
I'm telling you what, it is a game changer, because I kind of joked about I'm running late, but it's like running out of time. When I started doing podcasting, and we talked, like why there's so many benefits of doing podcasting, but when I started doing it, I had so much time to edit. Part of the reason why I was doing podcasting was to market myself and grow my business, while it's working. It's working. And because of that, my time is my free time to edit is very, I don't really have it. I've got to really squeeze it in. It's not something that I really purposefully have. If I have some open time, I'm going to run to the computer and try to get these things done, So before, I would have a couple hours a day that I could sit back and edit. So having the studio is so amazing, because I still edit my clip out, but I go to the studio, we don't have to do any of this. I just show up, and there's a studio engineer there that does all the stuff. I see the timer on the clock. I interview my guest, and then I leave. And then he sends me the video, and he uploads the audio, and I send him a little description. It is, I'm telling you what, it's I feel very spoiled with it. It's a game changer, but it's allowed my podcast to grow. My Spotify stats, my year growth on the podcast is 341%.
Wow.
I'm getting an average of 60 to 70 listeners or downloads just on the podcast channel. And then the YouTube, there's YouTube videos, but then there's the short clips that I put out, because I don't, that just takes me a few seconds. I listen to the podcast. I know what clip I'm going to pull out, and it takes me a few seconds because Grant already did the work. Grant is my studio engineer. He already did all the work. All I got to do is pull this clip out of this beautifully edited video that he's already taken. He's already put together. So.
Well, I'm still our editor, so none of that's happened yet. But we still have a fun broadcast.
Yeah. No, that's even here. It's harder, because then it's editing and it's putting all the stuff that I used to have a lot of time for, it can pile up really, really quickly.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
And one of the things, just putting things into playlists.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
So right at this moment, I do have a bit of time to do that. So that's one of the things that I'm going to work on. And just and a friend of ours showed us how to take little clips out. And it's just a matter of practicing it so that I get it seamlessly, so that it's easy.
Yeah.
Right now I'm still, what am I doing here? So, but the thing is, I think one of the things that I want to share with people about this is that don't be afraid to start.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to start.
Yeah.
And you might start out, and our channel is totally imperfect, but it's perfectly imperfect. And
go check it out.
But go check it out. And check out the channel of this show, of the Everyday Riches show. But just start, because you're never going to get anywhere if you don't start.
No.
The other day I posted a video clip is from 4 years ago on Facebook. It was the very first kind of thing like I did like this, So I take it back. I did a solo thing. I had a
Oh,
coach
I remember that.
and I did a solo thing. What'd I call it? I can't remember what I called it. That's so funny. Anyways, I had that, and then I did it with Daryl Walker. And so I had this it's like a really grainy video. It's off center, and it's really funny if you watch the whole thing. I clipped out an 8-minute video. Nobody watches 8-minute videos. I thought the whole thing is valuable. Like everybody's gonna want to listen to all of this 8 minutes. It's really funny, the whole thing. Our unison, the whole thing is funny, but I had to start somewhere.
Right.
Yes.
You start somewhere. And that's where Carol and I just said, we had talked about it. We had all this content, and it was like, let's just start. And so we did.
I
we worked Christmas Eve and Christmas Day on this.
Christmas Day.
And then we started in the 7 a.m. until midnight a couple of days.
Days after between Christmas and New Year's.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, as you said, give yourself some grace. We had to give each other grace.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some prayers in there. Okay, Lord, we need help here.
Yeah. A few cheese curds.
The cheese curds. It was the cheese curds. And it was like just the thing is, when you are feeling that, so let's have a life lesson here. When you are feeling in that overwhelm, stop.
Yep.
Just stop. Wait. Calm down. And then listen. What the intuition. That's what I have used that method, and I teach that method. Stop, wait, and listen. SWL. Stop, wait, listen. Because it is so important, because we get so caught up in the overwhelm that we don't give ourselves grace and we don't give ourselves a break. Just wait.
We cannot operate at our full capacity with all the emotions clouding our judgment, and then feeling we got to get this done and power through. Good for you that you were like, I gotta go. I've got these things. I've got to get to the bank. and then you went and had your ice cream therapy. And
that's exactly what it was. Ice cream therapy. And I eat my ice cream first.
Yeah.
And then my cheese curds.
Well, and Barbara, when you were saying that, what I was hearing was stop, look, and listen. Remember, we were all taught when you come up to the railroad tracks, you stop, look, and listen.
Yeah.
And then if you do that, the train isn't going to hit you.
Yep.
So, that stop, look, and listen is very valuable.
Very, very.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we thought, there's one of my favorite things is that when you've thought something, when you've done something, when you've survived something, then you have to teach it.
Yep.
Yes.
And so that's why, and Siri is talking to me. And that's why it was do this show, because I know that somebody somewhere at some time is going to be saying, ooh, wouldn't it be nice to do a podcast? Or wouldn't it be nice to start a YouTube channel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a wealth of information out there to help you.
I got to tell you about my client, Casey. He's on the race to 1,000 subscribers right now. That's his goal for this year. And I had Casey on my podcast a couple years ago. And he has autism, and he has been paving his own way. He's had this vision and dream to do sports interviews. And so he's just went out there, and he was when I first met him, he was working for a publication, and then that publication just kind of folded, and he was like, what do I do? And I remember I told him just on a conversation, like, go start a YouTube page, man, go and start doing these interviews and, do them on your own, just like what I was doing. And he went out and did it, and I didn't hear from him for several months. And then one day I stumbled upon that he had this YouTube page, and he had like a few hundred, like 100 videos posted on YouTube. And I'm like, what the heck? This guy's just been an animal. Fast forward now, a couple years, he has 2,700 videos posted on his YouTube page.
Wow.
He's grown his page. He set a goal back in October. He was at 500 subscribers. He set a goal to hit 600 by the end of the year. He hit 600 by December 20th, right before Christmas, and then now he's at 626. So it's like growing pretty quickly.
Wonderful.
It's so it's really awesome. It's just been consistency,
Right.
consistency. And what's been awesome is I remember his first interviews, and like if you go back and look at his page, it's like we talk about, was it fuzzy or we weren't as good as what we were. Like he's done 2,700 interviews across that time. That's all that time to practice and get better and better and better.
Mhm.
And it was really cool. I asked him this question a couple months ago. Is like, hey, do you remember when you started? It's like, do you know the difference? And he got this huge smile on his face. He's like, do you see it? Do you listen? Have you heard it? He's like, did you watch the first videos? He's like, I've gotten so much better. I've gotten so much more confident. And he's interviewing. The other day he was in my office, and he was interviewing Don Hawk. Now, I don't know anything about NASCAR, so I had to go look up who Don Hawk is. Don Hawk was the business mind behind Dale Earnhardt.
Ooh.
So he was the reason behind Dale Earnhardt's business success. He's now the CEO of Superstar Racing Experience, which is a famous racer, Jeff Gordon's racing company. And so it's this big racing company. Literally, Casey was interviewing him over Zoom. This guy is worth like $40 million, just interviewing Casey in my office. Like, it's just like, it was a really cool thing. Casey's like, yep. And like, can I reach back out to you? Can we have a conversation again in a couple months? And the guy's like, sure, Casey, yeah, anytime. Just call my people and they'll set it up. And it's like watching him do that. He started off interviewing high school athletes. Now he's interviewing superstar NASCAR racers and CEOs. And I was with him in Toledo for a big NASCAR event, and he interviewed the mayor of Toledo and Justin Gatlin, a gold medal winning track runner. And it's just like he had to start. And he had the
Right.
biggest thing against him in the world, because everybody told him his whole entire life that he's never going to succeed because he has autism.
Mhm.
Everybody always told him that he was less than. Everybody always told him that you'll never travel out of state by yourself. And now he's doing all these things. He's traveling out of state. He's doing these interviews. He's doing it without having to get a job. And when we talk about growing a YouTube page and all the frustrations, this guy has just been out there doing it. And he has 626 subscribers. If you hit 1,000 subscribers in 4,000 viewed hours on YouTube, you become a paid partner from YouTube. So that's when you get ads and stuff in your videos and you get paid for them. So as people watch your content, it's like watching TV. It's like you have your own TV channel and you're getting paid on the ads and the commercials. And
Mhm.
so that's why Casey's on this race, because when we first started working together, he's like, great, I have this content, but I can't sell advertising. I'm very limited at what I can do, and so he was freaking out. How am I going to make money doing this? All great. I've got all these interviews. I know they're good. I know I've got these subscribers, but I can't go out and do these things to monetize this. How am I going to do it? And so I started doing a lot of research on YouTube and found out, oh, you have to hit 1,000 subscribers in 4,000 viewed hours. Now, for us starting out where we're at, that's a lot of work. But for Casey, he's got 3,700 hours of viewed time. So people are watching his content for 3,700 hours plus for the last 365 days. People are watching his channel, and he's at 626. So he's continuing to grow, and he's going to get there. And so it's cool to see that hope now that I can do this. But he's just, all he did is go out there and did it.
Right. And
He
I
just
think
took
one
that
of the
step.
one of the things too is that don't compare where you are with somebody else that's been doing it for 5 years or 10 years
Absolutely.
or 20
Absolutely.
years.
Yeah.
And because that's one of the things. This is the beginning of the year. This is 2023.
Yeah.
And how many people are comparing what they did last year with what somebody else did last year?
Yep.
Quit doing it.
Quit doing it.
Quit doing it. It's in the past. It's done.
It's in the past. All you can control and compete with is yourself. And you know what?
Yeah.
Casey has put in a lot of work. You think there's 365 days in the year. So if you interviewed one person for every 365 days, to me, that's a lot of interviews. I do one interview a week, on my podcast, Coffee and Grit, and then we do one interview a week here. So that's two interviews pretty much. He's posted 2,700 videos over 2 years. That means he's like he's posting like 8, 9, 10 videos a day. That's so much content. I think of I watched this documentary on Kid Rock a long time ago, and it talked
Mhm.
about how Kid Rock was the hardest working man in showbiz before anybody knew him, right? Like before he became Kid Rock and on this national stage, everybody in Detroit knew who he was because he promoted his concerts. He was a one man, like he did it from top to bottom. He was out there promoting, filling the seats, like, and then doing the
Yeah.
performances. And he was doing them over and over and over and over again. He did so many performances that over time he got so good and so exposed and got so good at promoting himself, right? That I look at someone like Casey as behind the scenes that so many people don't know who they are. And one day someone's going to be like, you look at Dude Perfect and all these big YouTube stars, someone's going to be like, oh, it must be nice to be him. Look at how hard he worked to get there. Don't
Yes.
Right.
compare yourself to other people unless you're willing to put in the hard work, because
Right.
that guy is putting in a lot of hours to do that.
Right.
It's not for free. Nothing's for free.
Anything that's for free really isn't worth.
It's not.
So it
And
just
when
said,
things come to us too easily, we don't
Right.
value them.
right.
You know, I mean, like we all have free offers that we give. You know this, we'll give you this, but truthfully, if you just walk up and hand somebody a YouTube channel that's already set up and done, are they going to value it? Are they
No.
going to work it? Are they going to continue it? You know,
Right.
it's like wealth. They say, you know, the one generation builds the wealth, the next one maintains it, and the third one loses it.
Yep.
You know, that's
Right.
very much a norm throughout history.
That was my
Yeah.
guest on my podcast, Coffee and Grit, is my client Danny Eller, and he's the third generation. And the episode's title is Growth Under Fire, because he had worked in the family business as a kid. You know, that was the here, go to work. His dad is very that patriarch, great leader. And Danny realized he needed structure, and he needed to grow, and he needed to appreciate the family business, not just be handed the family business. And you know, not that ever would have been a thing. He didn't just be handed to him, but he went out and he experienced life on his own. He joined the fire service. He did a lot of things that were hard and created structure. And then when he came back and decided to join the family business, he was grateful for that,
Mhm.
grateful to have it.
Yeah.
Very focused, very structured, very self-aware, and very coachable, very humbled. And so I love working with the guy because he has those characteristics. And I see that third generation now. Not only is it not going to destroy the company, but I think it's going to take it to him and his brother are going to take it to a whole other level than what they're even at
Yes.
now.
And you really value those families.
So much so. So much so. Yeah,
Yeah.
just incredible
And-
people. And they were the ones I tied in that it deals with people. They are so focused in on their people and taking care of their people. And guess what? That's their advantage in the market.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, well, this has been a great conversation.
God, that was a quick one.
And
A quick hour.
Yeah. So everybody have an awesome new year.
Absolutely.
Go after it. Go
Go
after whatever it is that you are looking for. Just start. And don't compare your starting journey with somebody else's sizzle reel.
Ooh,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
huge.
Huge.
That is huge. And Carol and I mean, on our scale, we've had a couple of people that go, oh, wow, gee, wouldn't that be nice to have that? And we've had a couple of people say that to us.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, yeah, okay. And you can have it too. Just start.
Yep.
Well, and can I say something? If you,
Sure.
you know, Barbara and I each we're in a mastermind together, and people say, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. And I honestly don't even remember how we started it, but we started doing stuff together, and we started on Facebook. So if you want to do something, if you have a dream, find a running partner. No, I mean, in any business, find it. I'm not a big partnership person, but find a running partner. You don't
Yeah.
have to be partners on paper, partners legally, partners financially. You can have a running partner that will get mad at you, spur you on, kick you in the backside,
Yep.
go eat cheese curds while you're home,
Yes.
and come back with a brilliant idea. So, divide and conquer. That's one of my favorite terms, divide and conquer. She has her strengths. I have my strengths. We have things that we're doing. Well, just like the two of y'all do. Y'all have kind of divided and conquer in your show on what you bring to the table. And so, as long as you're both bringing to the table, you can't find a partner and expect them to do it all. And while you sit home eating bonbons and watching something.
Right. Exactly. So I think that's our biggest thing for this year. This is January. Look at last year.
January 3rd. No better time to start.
Yeah, exactly. Look at last year. Where were you last year? What do you want to do differently this year? Absolutely. But make sure they're realistic and just start. And one of the things that I really, I've been reading this book called Atomic Habits. Just get 1% better. Get 1% better every day or every week, or however you're going to measure your effectiveness.
Yeah.
But it starts with starting.
Yeah.
Starts with starting. So, and one of the biggest things too is keep the main thing. Keep the first thing the first thing. What is going to be your thing that you're going to do? And then keep it the main thing.
Yeah.
Everything else goes around. And I for me personally, it's my spiritual life, my family life, and then your business. But within your business, keep the main thing. What do you want to accomplish in your business this year?
Yeah.
And keep that to the main thing. And I mean, I'm the first one to admit I've been known to get distracted.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm telling myself there. I've been known to get distracted. But I'm working on it. So anyways, final words, Jason. That was my final word.
Just that, and again, we've mentioned it a few times. Just start. You got to start somewhere. It may not look pretty. And we have we've put in the work now. I've been putting in the work for 4 years, and even with Coffee and Grit, putting in that work for so long and kind of stumbling upon some luck. It's now starting to really grow, and that's helped me grow my business too. Quite a bit. And so, but I had to start. I had to stumble. I had to feel uncomfortable. I had to, I had all the things that you would be feeling right now starting. I'm on this other side. All of it was worth it, because even though stumbling, I look at those videos and it's like, that content was good. Not all of it was good, but there was like some really good stuff there.
Nuggets.
I'm proud of myself. There was some good
nuggets.
And there was a lot of learning experiences. And man, I remember there was just a conversation with Daryl, like, and I said this the other day in the post, is like, we were kind of trying to figure out how to do this, right? How do we just have two people that, and we're having a conversation back and forth where we're not cutting each other off, or like we have 3 people and we can intertwine conversation. It's not awkward bumping into each other. And we had a lot of that. In me, I'm more, so let's show up and have an ad-lib conversation. And he was more, let's plan it out and have and know where we're going. And so there was a lot of like spinning back and forth. And one day he just said, hey, there's this favorite newscaster I have. And he was like, he started describing her, and he's like, she's just really elegant with how she interviews. Like, she just asks these questions and she flows with things, and it connected. I was like, I've been doing interviews for years. I've interviewed people, salespeople. I've interviewed people for positions for years. It just kind of clicked that that's what I need to do. And take, so as I'm, I sit back and I listen, but then I'll ask a question, and it's like, in all my conversations of like, and then all of a sudden when I have something to say, I say it. We kind of, but it's a dance now, and I've just gotten so much more comfortable, and I learned that through those early stages.
Yeah. So Carol, last words.
Don't get into the paralysis of perfectionism. If you've got something you want to do, jump out and do it. and Google is Barbara's best friend. There's not much you can't find there. And so if you don't know how to do something, use Google or one of the other search engines to learn how. And so just do it. You know, get out and start, because you have all your life experiences to share with people.
Right.
And so many people in the second half of life think they have nothing to share, nothing to give. You know, they've had their kids, they have their grandkids, maybe their grandkids are grown and they think, oh, life is over. You're just starting.
Yeah.
You are just starting. And you have, you know, our culture here in the US no longer values elderly people. And used to, they were valued for their knowledge. And there's so much to give. And so, you know, I'd like to say, if you have something you want, you know, something you want to talk about or anything like that, fun story, give us a yell, because we love bringing those stories and showing people how they can and give back to society, basically, by just their knowledge and what they do and how they add value to life, because you do have something to give. So don't give up.
Right.
If you're not growing, you're dying.
If you're not growing,
Absolutely.
thank you. If
Not
you're
growing, you're
not
dying.
growing, you're dying.
Yep.
So,
Love it.
all right, everybody.
All right, everybody.
Welcome to the Everyday Riches Show, and we will